Hello, Richard.
Why'd you get so close to the camera? That was
Because I'm
weird.
trying to look into your brain,
Good response.
trying to get some
Good luck
insight
with that.
into how you're thinking here. I'm still puzzled. I'm puzzled with the Steelers.
What are you
Man,
puzzled about, Colin?
well, that was a Steeler win, wasn't it? It felt like a Bill Cowher win, kind of, the other day. Here's what I'm puzzled about. I don't know, maybe very few people know this, how injured Russell Wilson is. Like, is it if it was a playoff game, he could play? Is it well, he's actually pretty healthy, but the other guy, Justin Fields, won, so he continues to play? Is it 80%? Not that changes much, but it's very cloudy how injured he is.
That's a great conversation. I don't know that either, but does it matter?
Yes.
Why?
Here's why. Because it matters from the whole scope of things if he's close to 100% and he just didn't automatically get his spot back, which leads me to think he's probably not close to 100%, considering they didn't manufacture a touchdown. So then I go back to, at 35, I hope he can bounce back from an injury where it's lingered now for over a month.
Yeah, I honestly, a couple things I saw. I don't think they helped matters, and we talked about this, I think, the other day. But I don't think it helped matters when they were working him out, hitting the sled and pushing the sled. I don't think that was the most prudent of all moves for a 35-year-old quarterback that was just minorly injured.
Can I use different language?
Yes.
You say it wasn't the most prudent. I think it was freaking dumb. Could you imagine them saying that to Ben Roethlisberger? Go push that sled.
Yeah, stupid.
He would just flatly say no. And they put Russell Wilson in a real bad spot during a situation in which they asked him to push his sled. And here's why. It's a new weight staff. It's a new conditioning staff. So they're coming in. They're trying to impress Mike Tomlin.
Right.
And you have a guy who's trying to impress his new teammates and be a leader that is going to defy logic and go against things, probably against his better judgment, to say, I can't be the new guy in here who people are already talking about and have talked about in past stops. I've got to do everything, even if I don't want it, to show people that I'm not that person, even if it puts me in jeopardy. And here we are. He got hurt.
Yeah. And it doesn't help him. It doesn't hurt him either. But, with his marriage to Sierra, people think sometimes that, he's, what's the word? Privileged or
right. Prima donna kind of.
Prima donna. And he's not that at all. And she's not that at all. And they're just good people. And I think that's probably why like you said, he couldn't say, hey, that's a bad idea. I don't want to hit that sled. He couldn't say it because the spotlight's on him. And that's not the whole issue, because the true issue is who gives the Steelers the best opportunity to win. And I still believe it's Russell. And I still believe it's Justin. I believe it's the combination, the tandem of those two quarterbacks with packages designed for Justin Fields that Russell couldn't execute even if he was 25, because it wasn't his style.
Watching that game, and we texted with each other, watching this first game, the Atlanta game.
Yeah.
I am lost because, and it pains me more than anything to have to publicly agree with you. But as I was watching that game, I said, and I had visions a little bit. Now, he's bigger and he's a different kind of player, but you're right. And I hate admitting that, but you're right. Here's why. I had visions of Justin Fields as he was running certain packages, as he was running certain plays, using him almost like a slash type character, bringing him in, scaring the hell out of the defensive coordinator from the other team just when he's on the field or he puts his helmet on. And when it's 3rd and 4, when it's 2nd and 1, bringing him in, bringing Wilson off the field and using both of them and having true weaponry for the totality of the Steeler offense. And it hit me how easy he was able to pick up first downs with his legs.
Yeah.
and said, if you complement, some people say it's a problem if you have two quarterbacks and you don't have one. Well, what if you have two and you use and push forward the best of their skills and make one really good one?
I mean, I've said this since the signings. I love that idea. I love the design packages for exactly what you said. I think it's a very unique situation for us to be in because we have two. In my opinion, I'm going to tell you, we have two really good quarterbacks, and I think the way they're used, and I think Arthur Smith, I think he's got it. I think that he has a tool bag that he can use that's going to be really effective for this team. But I would eliminate the controversy. I would make that clear. I don't know why Mike's not doing that, but I would make that clear, and I would establish that hey, this is the way we're going to run. We're going to use both of our quarterbacks. The end.
Yeah, I thought it would. I thought you were nuts. I did during training camp. I thought you were crazy. I thought NFL teams can't function that way. But seeing the maturity of both of these guys.
Well, you're doing it with your running backs too.
You're right. You're right. And the more I think about this, maybe it's antiquated the way NFL franchises have run forever. In that if you're going to dress that many people, use everybody that's available on game day to try to get you a win. You know?
Well, I mean, look at even Cordell Peterson, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, he can return kicks. He can be in the backfield. He can be a receiver. I mean, the multi-purpose, I think it might not work for everybody, but I think Mike Tomlin's figured out a way to make it work. I really like Russell Wilson a lot. I really like Justin Fields a lot. And I really think, but the part that bothers me throughout all of this, yes, it's a win. I'm excited. Love it. What bothers me more than anything at all was they didn't score a touchdown.
Oh, I agree. And, it'd be something if they go through a couple weeks and don't score a touchdown to keep winning. Then it gives us something to complain about, but also something to cheer about, which is like perfect. But the fact they didn't score a touchdown is interesting. I do think, though, and I'm not this guy normally, the terrible call on George Pickens changed the complexion of the game in that drive, and they would have scored a touchdown on that drive.
Yeah, but if Grandma had ball, she'd be great.
I know. They've got to find ways in the red zone to do better. They've got to find ways whenever they cross midfield to do better. And I think they need to show much more urgency, particularly on first down, and find a way to push it to the middle of the field, which still they're loath to do with the pass game. They don't use the middle of the field with the pass game, which is weird to me.
Yeah, I think it's weird also. But I have a contradictory thought on that also.
Mm-hmm.
Contradictory to myself, really. Well, I like the way Arthur Smith called the game, but we didn't score a touchdown. So that's the contradiction internally with me. How can I say I think he called a nice game? We didn't score a touchdown. We kicked 6 field goals. Come on. How do we do that? And regardless of the George Pickens call, everybody has those calls. Every game has those calls. Every player has those calls. It happens. It's part of the game, and that's that. We can expect it, but I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on Arthur Smith? I like him.
I think he's okay. I think they need to find ways to get George Pickens the football running at full speed in the middle of the field. I think that has to happen more. I think they need to do that, and I'd like to see more Freiermuth in between the hashes. I think that has to happen as well. By the way, did you notice something I was telling you for 2 weeks? Did you see how pro-Pittsburgh that crowd was in Atlanta?
Yeah, you were right about that.
It was easy to predict because of because of the tickets and the way it was going.
You were right about that. Tell me something else. You talked about Freiermuth.
Sure.
You got a pretty big contract. Would you have given him that contract?
Probably not, but I don't hate that they did.
Okay, well, that's pretty much a non-answer, but
it is because here's why. You know what? The jury's still out because I don't.
And that's why I wouldn't have given him the contract.
I don't know the way Arthur Smith is going to use him. He may be somebody under this system that flourishes. So,
but when he came into the league,
yes,
from Penn State, I mean, he was touted as, man, that's Ben's guy in the end zone. He doesn't drop passes, and then he dropped passes, and then
he got hurt. He had a couple concussions, right?
Yeah, and then Now he ends up with his contract. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know that there's enough proof
Um,
that he's going to be that guy.
the best way for me to put it is they could maybe do what better. They could definitely do worse.
Yeah, but it's a lot of money.
It's totally a lot of money, but I I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's kind of like that's the cost of doing business in the NFL if you want to take a chance.
I guess I might have taken chances on other positions and people before.
It also tells me this. They front loaded essentially or can get out of it at any time. This Cam Hayward contract, and he's going to play 1 or 2 years. He's not going to see the end of that contract. And so that money will free up at some point in time, and they'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, Cam had himself a good game. I mean, he did. Hopefully, he stays healthy.
He's got 15 of those left, 20 of those left, maybe. He doesn't have, 35 left, I don't think.
No, I don't even think he thinks that.
Right.
Right. And he's just, the ultimate gentleman and the ultimate representation for this city and that team. So, yeah, I like the fact that he got his contract. I do.
I do too. And I like the terms.
Just like the fact that Fryermuth's got a contract. I just don't know that I would have based on, I don't have enough to convince me that was worth that signing.
Well, let me spin it this way, because the conversation I think isn't just linear in that way. The Freiermuth contract also tells me, I don't know what they expected from him, but it tells me that Darnell Washington's behind the timeline in terms of what they expected from him.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yes, if he would have came in and blew everybody's doors off and he was ahead of it and he was somebody that they said he's our tight end for a decade, I don't think Freiermuth would have got that.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. You go back to your middle of the field conversation.
Yes.
It seems to be every time they use the middle of the field like that, it's big play time. I mean, I can remember Juju Smith-Schuster. 70 yards.
Deontay Johnson.
Boom, Deontay Johnson. And then George Pickens last year. Every time we use that middle, and every time I see another team playing and they use the middle, I kick myself and say, why aren't we using the middle more? And maybe it needs to be set up, and maybe that's what they've been doing, and maybe now they'll unleash it. I don't know. But that's a really big part of our game, and could be. And I really would like to see that more. But I want to see a touchdown. And I want to see the Steelers score 40 points.
I don't know if that'll happen this week. I think they'll win again. I think they'll win ugly again. I think they'll win, 20 to 16 or something. I think we're going to see that again.
We got to score points.
Oh, yeah.
Got to score points.
I wrestle with this. The older I get. And I don't know if I've softened or whatever. Not that I agree with Mike Tomlin, but I've started to subscribe more and more to the NFL. Like a win is a win is a win is a win. I honestly have. And not fully, but a little bit more than I ever used to, because of the grind of it and because of how difficult it is week to week.
Well, I don't know about, use the next gen stats. I don't know. Look at the analytics. When was the last time a team won the Super Bowl that averages 16 or 18 points a game?
Probably that Baltimore team that was really good defensively with Ray Lewis and those guys, right? Like
a long time ago.
Right.
It doesn't happen often. And I don't even know. It's a good. I'd like to know what that average points scored per game was at that time. That'd be a good research project. But
how about we try to win a playoff game before we talk about Super Bowl stuff?
Okay, run the same scenario.
No, you're right. Every time they lose a playoff game, the other team comes in here or they go on the road and the other team's scoring, 42 points. You're right. Your point is very well taken. You got to put up points in big games.
You cannot score 16, 18 points a game consistently and win. I'll take an ugly win once in a while, but I'm not going to take an ugly win as my model. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to accept it.
Arthur Smith gets a grace period of 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Fair?
But still, the players have to play. The players have to perform. They have to play. I mean, a couple of those. Najee Harris is a beast. I mean, when he puts his shoulder down and he runs people over, but I want to see that every play. that he runs. I want to see it all the time. I don't know. That's the other thing. I'd get him in space more. I'd get him on the outside and I'd get him in space and I would absolutely run his wheels off.
I wouldn't. I'd make him a slot receiver at times.
At times, yeah. At times.
I mean, I don't understand their inability to get him the ball with his feet moving and
Just give him the ball.
swing
Get him the
passes.
ball with exactly what you said. Get him the ball with his feet moving. And man, I'm telling you, he puts up a head of steam. It's unbelievable. The guy's crazy powerful.
Let me mention this before we make our final picks and get out of here. Let me mention this. I said this to a friend just this morning, and we were talking about the Steelers and their lack of potency on offense, whatever. And I said, you can trace back probably their last 30 wins, okay? The last 30 times they've won or so, TJ Watt, when he's been healthy, there's a span of time in every one of those games where he takes it over. It's scary and it's insane that there is never a time where he has fully a ho-hum game for the most part. There's a span of time in every win that the Steelers have, whether it's 2 plays, whether it's a quarter, whether it's one series, where he legitimately takes it over for a vital period of that game. In the game, you can point to that point where the game rests on it or it turns. It's uncanny, and it's why he's one of the best ever defensively.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you watch the great teams, also great defenses, and that was a Chuck Noll hallmark. Build that defense, man. You make it strong. And I think, we've talked about this before. I think you might be looking at that defense this year. That could be this defense. We got a couple little holes,
right?
Okay? And but that could be this defense. And this is a pretty strong defense if everybody stays healthy.
I agree. 2016, my prediction: Steelers win. What do you got?
Tell me the quarterback in Denver.
Denver's quarterback?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Oh.
Am I gone? Should we say good night?